Welcome back to Cheddar's Opening Bell, everyone. Tomorrow on Capitol Hill, the biggest names in big tech from Google, Facebook, and Twitter testifying in front of the Senate Commerce Committee, subcommittee there. The hearing is focused on censorship and will likely have long-term impacts on Section 230 text liability protection. I'm joined now by Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, who sits on the Senate Commerce Committee. Good to have you here with us today, and thanks for taking the time, Senator. We got to know and start off with, what will you be looking to hear from these tech leaders tomorrow?
One of the things I think they need to hear from us is that we are fully aware that the American people no longer trust big tech. And you can see by the bipartisan agreement that was there in our Commerce Committee to issue subpoenas to all three of these tech CEOs. Now, they agreed to come voluntarily after we voted to issue the subpoenas, and we are grateful that they are. What we want to do is look at a couple of different issues. Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, as you mentioned, which is something that governs how they use liability protection. And this is also something that leads them to censorship. And I will tell you, whether it's conservatives or whether it's entertainers here in the Nashville community, I hear from people that are frustrated with trailers for movies or bits for songs, things that get blocked, and they can't figure out why. They never get an answer why, because the tech giants hide behind their terms of service and community standards. Likewise, we also have bipartisan legislation that deals with online privacy. This has been in the works for about 8 years. It goes back to when I chaired the privacy working group in the House. We are looking forward to pushing through the Senate Commerce Committee our privacy legislation, and we'll have that discussion with them also.
Senator, many experts consider Section 230 foundational to protecting free expression on the internet, and so how do you still plan to protect that and change this section without infringing on First Amendment rights?
Well, and you've hit on a very important point. There are some that want to do away with Section 230. My legislation, the Online Freedom and Viewpoint Diversity Act, which Chairman Roger Wicker and Chairman Lindsey Graham have joined me on this legislation, this would reform Section 230. In the reforms, we would do a couple of things that are important. First of all, we would be more specific on who can use the liability protections in 230, how it can be applied, and when it can be applied. We would also be more specific in the language of 230. We would remove the phrase otherwise objectionable. That is where you get the subjective nature of censorship, that some people and some phrases will get censored. And we want to take that subjectivity out of the equation. The other thing is to be more definitive in who is a content creator, so that your creators, publishers, editors are not going to be adversely impacted because somebody puts something offensive in a comment section.
And Senator, I've got a few topics I want to hit on before we have to wrap here.
Sure.
Do know that, and switching gears just for a hot second, to the confirmation of Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett. From your perspective, what was the reason for prioritizing a Senate confirmation of the new justice at this point in time?
This was our moving through the process of doing our duty. And it is the president's duty to nominate someone, and the Senate has the ability to provide advice and consent. So that is for those of us at Judiciary Committee and then later the Senate at large. That was our responsibility. I'm delighted that we have a constitutionalist jurist who is now a justice on the Supreme Court. We've worked hard at Judiciary Committee to fill the vacancies at both the district, the circuit, and also the Supreme Court levels.
This all coming in a very contentious election year where we know the rhetoric has been heavy on both sides. I do want to kind of shift to the most recent presidential debate, and particularly the coronavirus was a major topic, as of course in this unprecedented time it should be. President Trump saying during the final presidential debate hosted at Belmont University in the great state of Tennessee that we're rounding a corner. Do you believe that to be true?
I think that what we do know is that we are moving to a position that we're going to be able to learn to live with this virus because the antivirals, the therapies, a vaccine is coming at hand. And you know, this was a novel coronavirus. Coronaviruses have been around for decades. And have been researched heavily. We actually have a lab, the Denison Lab here in Nashville at Vanderbilt University, that has been very involved in the coronavirus research over the past decades. And this was a new strain of coronavirus. We're learning more about it every day, and God bless the medical researchers and the scientists that continue to work on it. And also our team of scientists at Oak Ridge National Labs,
right,
with the world's fastest supercomputer, the Summit, that have been able to put in data and speed up some of the processing for these medical research scientists. So
right,
hopefully we're going to get therapies and vaccines, and we'll also have some antivirals that will help us in controlling this virus.
And Senator, just very quickly as well, we heard what you were mentioning in terms of living with the virus. What part of that plan also includes increased testing to ensure that we are living safely to the best extent possible with this virus?
Well, you're exactly right about that, and testing is such an important part. I think it's why I was so disappointed that our Democratic colleagues have twice now voted against the funding measure we had in the Senate that would do another round of PPP. This is desperately needed for our live entertainment industry and our small businesses in Tennessee, plus up in unemployment of $300 per week. There again, individuals that lost their jobs, no fault of their own. And then it had money for vaccines and money for testing, and getting rapid tests to universities, to places of employment, that has to be a priority. And it was disappointing they chose not to vote for that funding.
We do have to go. We do know that we're going to continue to monitor any movement on any type of funding and stimulus that comes out of D.C. We had seen yesterday House Speaker Nancy Pelosi say that the current plan that's proposed by Senate Republicans does not go far enough on the testing front. So we'll see where there is a marriage in the middle, perhaps, on that very issue.